On today's show,
Information that probably not a lot of people maybe realize or knew about Beauty and the Beast.
this is K-Rockcast, the podcast where music and perspectives collide.
I'm Anne, a music lover who's the ultimate fan.
And I'm Kelly, a professional musician. Join us as we dive into the world of the Rose and other Korean and Asian rock bands.
Sometimes we'll agree, sometimes we'll wildly disagree, but what's guaranteed is a passionate, hilarious, and unfiltered conversation about the music that unites us and the bands that inspire us. Hi, everybody. We're back. This is K-Rock Cast Season 2, and we're kicking off the new season, Kelly, with a deep dive into the Roses song, Beauty and the Beast. And this is kind of perfect. Like, I feel like I wish we could say, Kelly, that we timed this perfectly, but it kind of just happened that today is actually December 29th. And when we're recording, and that is special because December 29th is actually the 4-year anniversary of the Roses song Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah.
So it's kind of perfect.
It is perfect. I don't know how we managed that one.
Hey, you know, it just worked out. I'm excited to deep dive into this. I think it's now an iconic song for the Rose, but it wasn't always considered a hit. To be kind of honest. And we're going to talk about that today. And we have some information, viewers and listeners, about the song that I bet a lot of you probably didn't know. And so look forward to some of that new information. So why don't you kick us off, Kelly, with talking about the timing of the release of Beauty and the Beast?
Before I do that, I am just going to point something out. I'm starting with the flu. So I may turn in.
Are you doing your Editor Kel live?
I'm doing my Editor Kel live. I'm just getting it out there now. My voice may go south very, very quickly. And I might start coughing and sneezing halfway through this to go with my nice red nose. You do not want to know how much concealer is on this red nose. So helpful.
Oh, it's too bad you can't, like, you can edit sound and all of that, but maybe you need to like do like a gloss over on your poor red nose.
It's going to do the Elizabeth Taylor bit, just wipe some Vaseline over the lens. It'll be fine. Nobody will ever notice. It'll be absolutely fine. Anyway, Beauty and the Beast was released on December the 29th, as we've just discussed, in 2021 as a digital single. This was under the Roses' former management company, J-Star, and the digital single consisted of Beauty and the Beast and an instrumental version of it. I do miss the instrumental versions of things. They don't seem to do that anymore, and it was always such a fantastic thing with the earlier releases. This release was significant as it marked their first release after the hiatus due to the lawsuit with their management company. However, the song was released with really no promotion whatsoever at all because 3 of the members of the Rose were all doing the military service. So that would have been Dojun, Hajun and Taegum. And yeah, it kind of just sort of crept out there from nowhere.
Yeah.
It wasn't expected at all. Yeah. Wilson had just released a digital solo album earlier in December called Genre, and he was promoting his solo work as well. So obviously it kind of got swept away. And this was something that was mentioned in the Zach Sang show interview that they did with him in 2022.
Yeah, let's play that clip now.
Were you nervous to put out Beauty and the Beast?
Not really.
Yeah, not really.
Yeah.
First song back?
Oh,
No
I mean,
nerves?
you know what? That one was actually, as a long story short, but that one was already supposed to come out like many years ago.
So you had it done.
Yeah, the music video was shot already and everything, but it's just, complications with certain situations that it just came out. It happened to come out in the middle of their like military
So
release.
it took like 2 years to get out.
Yeah. Everything was done already. Yeah.
So when it comes out and it still does well, what does that prove to you?
Did it do well? Okay. Because we didn't even get to promote it, honestly.
True. It was just
that's when they were like still in the army.
I understand.
Yeah, and we really believe we really thought that song when we wrote it like 4 years back, 3 years back, that was gonna, you know,
do something.
Yeah, because we really believed in the song at the time. We still do, but it was like where we were at and most advanced music that we felt like it was an upgrade from Sorry from our first single, right? So we're very excited. But then, you know, 2 years have passed.
I still love that song.
I love it too. I know. I'm not saying I don't love it. I love it.
You know.
It's just that we have matured and we have grown from it a little bit.
And
right, yeah.
there might be the bridge in between the old chapter and the new chapter.
Yeah.
I kind of like how they referred, you know, a little bit to that. We have some more clips in a moment with Dojun kind of speaking upon those same lines of feeling like at the time that Beauty and the Beast was kind of the next level of their progression as songwriters from where they were when they started and kind of their first chapter. And I kind of like them thinking, you know, Dojun saying it's kind of that bridge, you know, for them, putting it out between the era with Jay and Star of Void and Dawn and Red, and then into them on their own coming with Heal.
I think it's the perfect description as well, because I mean, not only is it this perfect description of where they are in the transition as a band and management and everything else, but I think it's a really good definition of sonically as well.
So since it's a digital single, there isn't as much out in terms of some of the credits in production and so forth that you might have with some of the physical singles, EPs, and albums. I mean, basically, I could just kind of find that it was arranged by the Rose, composed by the Rose, and lyrics by the Rose. So Kelly, let's start digging into our melody analysis. I think you said at the top, I love that we did get an instrumental. We don't get that very much anymore at all in any of their work. And I know when we first did our first episode of Into the Void, I told you I never listened to instrumentals, but then through this podcast, I started listening to instrumentals and I fall in love because I notice so much more in the instrumentation than when the lyrics and vocals are on it. So why don't you kind of start breaking down the melody for us?
So this is in 74 beats per minute, or if you're going to double time it, 146 beats per minute. And it is in F major. It is an absolutely fantastic track. In some ways, it's actually quite simplistic. So just following on from kind of what Sammy said in that interview, I can understand where he's coming from, because they're sort of seeing the dynamic development a lot further on from this. But I will put this out, I love this song. When I say there's simplistic elements to this is no slight whatsoever at all. It is a fantastic song. So the guitar chords for this are F, B flat, D minor, and C. And one of the things you will notice about this track, the main voice of it is the guitar. And it has this guitar riff that a lot of people would initially, when they first hear it, will say it's a guitar solo. It's not a guitar solo. It's definitely a guitar.
I was going to ask you that, because I think in my ignorance in music, I don't really know the difference, like where the line is drawn between a riff and a solo. And I was going to kind of ask you if you consider this a solo or a riff.
It's definitely a riff. The way it's molded later on in the song, it's sort of given the up and presence of a solo. But no, it's definitely a riff. The drums are traditional 4/4 with a tiny bit of syncopation. So, and the syncopation is put in there just so it hits really nicely with the bass drum. But it is a very bog standard, for want of a better term, just 4/4 to the ground beat that you would get with any ballad. There's nothing in it that literally sort of jumps out. So when I say it's very traditional, you've literally got a kick on the first and the third beat, and you've got a snare on the second and the fourth. It's rudimentary in its way. And one of the things I find quite strange about this, and we kind of mentioned this actually when we were talking about Ballroom Extravaganza for DPR Ian, this, you kind of get that feeling that it should be a waltz, but it's not a waltz, because a waltz is in 3/4. And this is kind of more foxtrot, but it's slowed down. It's quite strange because you get that sort of feeling with a lot of the other instrumentation that is kind of trying to pull it towards being a waltz.
This is what I love about us, because you have such depth of true knowledge that you can explain these things. But if you look at my notes, and I know you don't read my notes, it's not like you're like read ahead and you're saying something because I literally say in my like layman's speak, it feels like there's an ebb and a flow.
Yes.
Because I don't know how to explain it, but when you were saying that technical aspect of it, that's what I picked up even just as a listener. You know, I felt like there's a push and a pull and an ebb and a flow.
Yeah, there is a push and a pull, and it's because you've got the grounding is so, I almost want to say it's military in a way. It's very soft. It's it's a lot of brushes and things like that in the way that it's played. But it has got that slight sort of military, very rudimentary, very sort of solid, and it's got that sound to it. And then you've got this thing where it's just like over the top. You've got this, and it comes from this circular guitar. So we go back to, as I said, DPR Ian. It's this circular guitar motif. It's this sort of feeling of waltzing, of going round and round in circles. But traditionally, as I said, a waltz is 3/4, just, or 6/8, just to sort of confuse matters. And actually, I think they missed a trick with it by not having it as 3/4, because it could have actually, when it goes into the bridge, it would have been nice to actually alter to 3/4 and then come back, because drum beats don't have to be the same all the way through, which we will get onto when we start talking about various other bands. But Hajuni plays for the band. He is the solid man at the back doing the solid job. So that's why it tends to be very much that sound. The soundscape, it's got this really use of now the way I described it is splashy dynamics. And by that, it's like the actual sort of, there's things that come in and out, and they sort of splash in and out, and it's very quick. And it sort of, and it's got this thing of it kind of builds and then it falls away, which then again adds to the ebb and flow. It's sort of this, this sort of movement that you don't necessarily expect on something that's a straightforward ballad as such. And then there's lots of sort of cuttings with the guitar work as well. So what they'll do with that is, so when you're producing and you are recording vocals, you push the vocals to the front, but the guitar in this is treated almost like a secondary voice. So you get this push where it is literally sort of overdrive to the front, which is quite unusual when it's a riff, because you normally tend to push a guitar solo forward.
Right. I love that about this song. And I think what I noticed also is when I listened to the instrumental, I could hear when the guitar riff is in the background, because then the vocals are over it. But I think when I was listening to the song with the vocals, I didn't even realize that guitar riff is still there.
And it's very
in the background.
It's very openly rung as well. It's very loosely played chords, and you can kind of, now it sounds silly, like when you sort of like see a medieval movie and there's somebody sat playing a lute. It's got that sort of lute feeling to it. It was like, tring! It's got that feeling to it in the background. So it does kind of get lost. But when obviously it's pushed forward and it's got this more heavier gravitas to it, that's when it happens. So I don't know, do you want to play the guitar solo now while we're talking about it?
Yeah, let's play this iconic guitar solo. I tell you, I feel like now that is so iconic because I feel like now if you're a fan of The Rose and all you have to hear is that, just a couple bars of that even, you know exactly what song it is.
Yeah, yeah.
A- And
And
I think it's amazing
it's a
that
very clever use of power chords because that's all it is.
yeah, but I think what's amazing is like let's go back to the beginning. This was a song that had no promotion.
Mm,
This was a song nobody was out there touting this riff.
yeah.
Nobody was out there marketing this song. This song got picked up and played by listeners
Mhm.
just organically.
Yeah.
And I think has transitioned for the band to become one of their most iconic
Yeah.
songs.
Without a shadow
Which
of
I
a
think is
doubt.
like incredible. I think it's a testament to the quality of the song.
Yeah. Oh, it really is. I
Um,
get you there. And then one of the other things about this song is there's such a really lovely use of vocal dynamics in it as well.
mm,
And I don't
yeah.
necessarily think that a lot of people pick up on the harmonies that are in this because there's lots of really lovely
Mm,
harmonies, very subtle, very quiet, very demure, but they're there and they're just really lovely. And I mean, the very first sort of phrase, you've got this whispered reply, which is so obviously it's Wusung that comes in initially, and then you have this whispered reply, which is Dojun, and as he comes in,
I love that part.
but you can't necessarily be because it's so softly done. You don't necessarily click who it is that's singing it unless you've listened to it a bit and
Mhm.
then you've got, oh, I can tell who that is. Because obviously Dojuni comes in a little bit later with his bit and he comes in with more of a sort of steady vocal than this soft ethereal vocal that he's doing at that point. And then as we were discussing before we started recording, one of the things that we both love on this is when it gets to the chorus and you have this choral a sort of call and response at the end, which does have everybody singing on it, but primarily the voice at the front of it is Hajuni, and and you can tell
Yes.
it's him because he's got this. He's very definitely got a different timbre to his voice than everybody else in the band, and
Yeah, he
I want to
does.
say there's a tightness to it. That sounds like a really weird way of describing it, but he does. He sort of like has a tightness to some of it, that how he attacks words, and you can really tell it's him. And it's so lovely to actually hear all four of them very distinctly on this track. And I think that's also one of the other reasons that
Yeah.
people love it as well. But yeah,
Oh, yeah.
it's
I love that so
it's
much.
fantastic. And then we have towards the end, and you get to the bridge, and we've got all the strings that are building. Now, people, please bear in mind, I think we can honestly say the strings on this are not. It's not performed by a quartet or a quintet or anything like that.
Mhm.
This is, it's synth strings, and I think you can kind of tell because it doesn't have the warmth that you necessarily would. But it still works in such a fantastic way, and it allows that build, which then leads into this guitar
Mhm.
solo, and it then becomes this grandiose thing towards the end. It's beautifully done. It really is.
I like in the bridge those ahs, and I'm not sure if those are vocal ahs or synth sounds that have been added in production, but
I
I think
think
it
it's
adds to
both.
that majestic feeling.
I think there's both. So what you can
Mm.
do is when you are mixing, you can you can get your choral clips, and this will literally be them stood in the studio literally just doing R's over and over and over again, and then they'll pick one or two and they'll go, that's the sound that we want, and you clip it, and then what you do is you basically push the sound of the synth just underneath it, so
Mm.
it then becomes this bigger sound. You tend to do it a lot with very natural sounding instruments, and you'll put a synth underneath it, which is a similar synth. So it basically makes the sound wider. So that's what they've done. I
Mhm.
think they've put a synth underneath it to make it sound like a bigger chorus that's happening, as in a choral chorus,
Yeah.
than four of them stood in a booth.
I just love that part you had mentioned earlier where, and they do it in both of the verses. So first it's Woo-sung leading in the first verse, but Dojun is kind of doing that like Beauty and the Beast whisper. And then I enjoy that when Dojun singing verse 2, Woo-sung does the same thing, doing the same lyric kind of coming in. I just love that. I think the beginning and end of the song is very unique to me. I'm calling it this like distorted synth sound kind of. They begin and they end it that way. What's your take on what could be used to create that sound?
It's a swell, and what they do is they invert the swell. So what they do is you get the sound and you expand it, and then to give it this sort of, it's not distortion, but it's to give it this, there is a word for it in my brain. Obviously, as we've said, folks, is not working at the moment because it's full of snot. Yeah.
You'll do an editor Kel and insert it in.
When I remember what the word is, and I'll go, oh, shit, it's this. Anyway, but at the moment, it escapes me. This is Editor Cal, and I was in fact right, which is a scary thought. It is a distorted swell, and this can be done in one of two ways, either with a signal chain or via harmonic content. But no, but what they do is you basically you blow up the sound, you make it swell. So what you can do is you can drag the note and you can increase the size at one side, and then you can sort of fade it off at the other. And then if you're really clever, what you do is you invert it. So you get this thing that sort of slowly creeps and gets bigger and then fades away. And then that's how you get that sort of very ethereal sound that you can hear at the beginning and at the end.
Yeah, I think it's very unique. All right, we said at the top of the episode, Kelly, that we have some kind of information that probably not a lot of people maybe realize or knew about Beauty and the Beast. Why don't you walk us through this information we learned through our research?
Yes. In the Roses live stream on August the 3rd in 2023, they shared that the Beauty and the Beast was supposed to be on a mini album with Childhood. And the mini album or EP would have had Childhood, Beauty and the Beast, and a song called The Beauty Inside. Sammy then shared that they were working on finishing the album and then something happened and they couldn't finish the album. Now, obviously, this would have been him referring to the lawsuit that was ensuing between themselves and their former management company, Jane Star Company. Dojun then shared that he still has the recording files for the song Beauty Inside. Now, whether or not it will ever see the light of day is a very different thing.
I found this fascinating when I was going through my research, and I'm always watching old content just to, one, gain new information or cultivate content for YouTube and Instagram. And I happened upon this. And I remember I texted you, Kelly, and I was like, oh my goodness, I found out kind of this new tidbit about Beauty and the Beast. So how fascinating that this would have been a mini album. And of course, Dojun has the files, right? Like, we know this man has terabyte upon terabyte of content on his laptop.
I can't
Come on, Dojun.
I can't say anything because I hoard music files as well. So I do that.
Dojun, if you're listening, Dojun, just go ahead and put it out there, buddy. Come on. Let us hear it. But in true Hajun fashion, he remembered the melody. We love our Hajuni. Let's watch that clip now.
There is one song that we don't use.
Where? What?
With 민요와 야수랑 원래 같이 나오려고 했던
Oh my god.
하나 있는데.
It's called Beauty Inside.
Yeah, right.
Can you sing the melody?
조금만 짧게.
Okay, wait. So Beauty and the Beast was supposed to be an album with Childhood.
Yeah, right.
Right.
Childhood, yeah, mainly like Childhood and
Definition of
No, definition. No, we didn't have that one.
Yeah.
We didn't have that one. It was Childhood, Beauty and the Beast, and Beauty Inside. It was supposed to be a mini album, and we were still trying to finish the album. And and then something happened and we couldn't really stop. Yeah, but then we released it on Heel.
Yeah.
But
it was a better fit.
Can you sing Beauty Inside? Do you remember?
Beauty inside.
여기까지만.
You have the recording?
Yeah, we still have the recording. I have the recorded files, like the drums and bass and all that.
Are we ever gonna use it?
Maybe.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I love Dojun. Maybe. Dojun's like, don't give up too much, Hajun. Come on. Like, you never know when I might just want to drop it.
It's just like that look of panic that he always gets, isn't it? Every time one of them opens his mouth and he just goes into mum mode. It's like, oh, don't embarrass me again.
I just love that Hajun remembered that melody.
I know.
That man is incredible with his melodies. New information for maybe some of you. Let us know in the comments if you already knew that or whether that was kind of new information for you. But I loved finding that out. Let's dig into the lyrics then of this song. So I think what's kind of interesting, Kelly, to me, this is the last song that they wrote mostly in Korean lyrics.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Yeah, which I find so fascinating to me of this transition they made between the time under Jay and Star when they really wrote in Korean and then when they came out on their own with Heel and thusly since then that they have mainly written in English. I find it interesting because when they're asked a lot, they have been asked a lot, particularly through the world tour. They were asked constantly about the lack of Korean lyrics and why do they write in English and so forth. I feel like they continually share. It feels more natural for Sam, who is their main lyricist in the band, to express himself in English. But then also I think they have come to recognize that their audience, the main language that's common among their audience is English. And it's very important for them to ensure that their audience understands the meaning behind their songs, because it's cornerstone, I think, to who they are. And so I think that's kind of interesting, but it was great to translate this song. I had not translated it before. So viewers and listeners, I will put out the translations. We have them available on our website, krockcast.com as well. So you can kind of dig into the translated lyrics. But Kelly, this is really full of the common language that we've said in this podcast a lot as we've dug into their discography that they tend to use in their writing, you know, words like and metaphors of withering flowers, petals dropping, you know, just kind of that common language. What is your overall assessment of kind of the meaning behind the lyrics? What's your take?
As I said, I adore this song, and actually this is one of the very first songs that I actually ever physically translated myself from Korean. That was the point in time where I really started to sort of understand the fact that they have their own vernacular and they stick to it. They have their own Rose dictionary, and there are certain terms that they will always use and that they denote. I love the play in this back to the original story of Beauty and the Beast, even though it's not what it's about. And I find that is a really nice tie-in to this sort of ideology of them as a band and the fan base, basically what they were going through. So to me, you could view this in two ways. You could view this as a song that is a love song, and it is a declaration of being somebody different and wanting to be somebody different. And you could have that whole, it's the opposites attract and all this, that and the other and everything else. But I think there is an underlying tone of it that fits back to this ideology of growing and development and loss and renewal, and there's all that sort of story within it, and I think that also sits quite heavily with their story as well, and what they are like as people. And I mean, you could look on this, at multiple levels. It's like, why is the singer of the song classing themselves as beastly? I mean, are they beastly because they feel as though they're judged in a certain way that makes them beastly? I mean, you could look at this in multiple ways. Is this something about how they deem themselves, or they don't view themselves as enough of?
Yeah.
Or are
Yeah.
the beastly perceptions their own negative sort of concept of self and things like that?
Yeah, I love that. I think there are multiple interpretations of this song as well, which I enjoy that. I've said that before. I feel like it's a mark of good songwriting if you can interpret something in
Yeah.
multiple different ways. I agree with you. I think there's an interpretation where, the voice in the song that's telling this story, referring to themselves as the quote beast, is someone feeling unworthy, feeling judged, undeserving. Kind of the beauty then is that love, that they're finding. I think there's like a realization that love doesn't magically fix you, but it can help you heal. You can heal through it. I feel like then I kind of took this other interpretation, a little bit maybe of what you were saying about them as a band and their journey, particularly if we think of when this was written, right? At the point going in or during, probably right before the time with their lawsuit, which I know not everybody listening and watching the podcast has seen yet the documentary, because we're releasing this in January. The documentary is going to come out in February in theaters. But once you see the documentary, or if you have seen the documentary, then I think I reflect on what they were going through at the time when they probably wrote this song. And I think this other interpretation I have is that they are the beast and beauty is music. That it's like their, as a band, it's like their relationship to music and how they have used music throughout their time as a band. But also I think each personally has, especially someone like Taegyum, someone like Usang, have used music to heal, themselves personally, but also music was the glue that kept them. Their love and passion for music was the glue that kept them together through the trials, and obstacles that they had to overcome. I like some of the lyrics. I like where he kind of this idea of magic. They talk about, I think I'm going to be enchanted. I think the magic is going away. So there's times where I like when you said about like rebirth. I kind of think some of that, to me, some of that imagery created is, when things are new, whether it's a love or relationship, or whether it's them starting out in music and they were hungry, they were passionate, they were enchanted, they were enthralled with what could come. But then the heaviness comes, the reality, right? That nothing is perfect, whether it's a relationship and you're going through the tough times in your personal relationship or love relationship, or whether it's what they faced with music when they wanted to leave music. There were times when they wanted to leave it. It was something that, wasn't as enchanting anymore. And then I think that magic is going away. I think
Yeah.
what you come to through it, then there's the line, a daily view. It's new when I'm with you. It's like, it's no longer this fantasy. It's now becoming real. And there's beauty in the flaws. There's beauty still in the negative parts, right? You're beyond the enchantment of what my career in music would be, or what this new love, is. You're kind of beyond the honeymoon stage. And now you have the love and beauty in the flaws of it. I kind of like that part too.
There's also, to me, there's kind of like this underlying thing. It's almost like the music business itself, though, because you view the music business, or there's this ideology that the music business is this wonderful, beautiful, gleaming thing. And, there's this idol on the stage that is this personification of whatever beauty is. And actually, a lot of the time, the music industry isn't a beautiful thing. It's a horrible, dirty, beastly thing.
Yeah.
It's chaos. It is controlled chaos at all times. You don't necessarily know who you are or what you are or anything else like that. And I think this kind of relates to this idea of like wilting flowers, and the fact that you frequently feel like you are almost disintegrating, but you're sort of still under the spotlight, and you've still got to maintain this beauty within yourself. And there is that sort of nod to it. I mean, there's also the other side of it as well. I mean, somebody can be, we go back to the original story. The beast became the beast. The beast was originally a prince, a beautiful prince, but his egotistical red flag ways made him beastly.
Right.
And it wasn't until he realized that's what he had actually become, and with the help of others, and we can't just say it's the help of love, because obviously, you've got all the other aspects that within that as well. But with the help of understanding, it was then pulled back to who he was, or who he should have been all along. So this kind of goes along with this sort of idea of this development, this sort of rebirth, renewal, and things like that within it. So there's lots of nice little sort of side quest stories with this. Definitely other ways that you could take it. Yeah, lots of different layers. And we might be wrong about all of it.
Oh, I love your interpretations. Even the first line in English, if I'm translating it for our viewers and listeners, they say, it couldn't have come true, our love story. People's gaze look at us and shake our heads because I'm the beast and you're the beauty. I think of that, if I go back to that interpretation of them, in their story as a band with music, it's kind of like them starting out, with this little band that was just on the streets of Hyundai, busking, and the success that they have had up to now, particularly even at that point when they were writing this song. It's like that they're the kind of band like them should never have made it, right? It's kind of interpret it that way. Not in Korea. Yeah. So I think this is kind of a perfect transition to wrap up, because one of the things that I also found in all of my desperation when the Rosarium closed, Kelly, to preserve
your frantic desperation. And we've now both officially been kicked out. Can we just point this out? We've now officially been booted. We were booted on the same day, weren't we?
It is done. The same day. I think that was, oh my God, I'm just reflecting on that, Kelly. It was the exact same day.
Yeah.
I think I literally posted and then got kicked out.
Yeah, I think you did.
Because I can see that there were 2 comments, and I'm like, I'm never going to see those 2 comments ever. Never. I have no idea. It's like those subtitles are coming. They never came.
Did those subtitles ever come? No.
No. They never came. But I found this little clip of Dojun in some old content that they called the Rose Cast, which is kind of funny. They called it the Rose Cast, but it was kind of like a podcast type of content. Yeah. And I love what he said about this song. But before I say that, I've been reflecting a little bit on this song, and that some of what we talked about up to now, I feel like the song to me is the perfect representation of the Rose themselves. Because, as we said, this song was released with no fanfare, no promotion, no major marketing. Yet, the song caught the hearts of listeners and fans and has become now, I think, one of the iconic songs in the Rose's discography. And I feel like it's kind of like the Rose. You know, they don't have a major record label backing them up. They don't have all this marketing support. They don't have all this promotion support from this big record label. You know, they do it themselves. And I think especially with the World album, they kind of let the music speak for itself. And I think they have still been able to grab the hearts of listeners and their fans, even without all of that big marketing, you know, and promotion behind them. So let's wrap up with Dojun himself, our crazy scientist. We miss him so much. Let's wrap up with something he said again about what he thinks of Beauty and the Beast.
It depends on the person who wants to explore. If this person is if this person is not interested in us, maybe sorry or back to me. But if this person is very interested in us, like wants to know about us, maybe Wonder and Beauty and the Beast. Every song has its own energy, but Sorry and Back to Me is the one where you can grab the attention. And I think Beauty and the Beast and Wonder is the evolved version of ourselves, our music.
I just love that. What a great way to end this. All right, Kelly. Now we are going into my favorite segment in the new year as well. New and fresh would you rather scenarios to torture you. Excuse me. I mean, put you in.
And I'm poorly. Don't do this to me. No.
I feel a little guilty, actually, because you're not feeling well.
You're mean.
But that doesn't hold me back.
No, I know it doesn't. You're mean.
Okay.
I am literally just going to send you a card and cough in it and then hope you get it when you get it.
Send me your germs through the mail. That's hysterical. That's so funny. Okay. Would you rather? Now, I have been, today actually, December 29th, I put out a reel on our Instagram because I'm kind of in this like ASMR like obsession right now with the Rose. And actually, viewers and listeners, Kelly hates ASMR.
Absolutely hate it.
You absolutely hate it. So, would you rather have Hajuni tattoo a rose on your body, any spot of your choice, but he's blindfolded? Or you are stuck in a group chat where Dojun sends you hourly motivational voice notes using the most dramatic ASMR possible. So, for example, he's going to be going in, Neir Haridir Onir Hera, which we all should know is the Kim family mantra by Mama Kim herself. Okay, while you decide, Kelly, I have a clip so that you can see what your future might be if you so choose our mad scientist. Let's give this a listen before you make your decision.
My name is Dojun. We're going to take you to our sound journey with our favorite things. To put it in our words, we want to talk about human life through our music. And whether, it's an emotion or a story, we just want to put that into melody and chords and all that sound and lyric. And that's what we do.
So now that you've set the scene, are you going to go with hourly motivational quotes from Dojun in his most dramatic ASMR? Or are you going to let Hajun tattoo a rose on you, but blindfolded?
Right. I need to ask clarifying questions.
Oh, good. I feel like we haven't had this clarifying questions in a while, so I'm prepared. I like
Clarifying
this.
questions. Can I fast forward through the motivational speeches?
Oh, absolutely not. Absolutely not.
I mean, I don't know. So nobody would have actually seen me while Anne was playing that clip because I was literally doing this. See, she's just like nails down a blackboard with me. I really hate it. I hate it so much.
I'm a horrible friend. Because you know what I'm doing? I learn all the things that you absolutely hate, and then I turn them around and use them against you in all the would you rather scenarios. I'm an awful person.
One of these days, I am going to get my revenge. I mean, literally, you'd cut it when it's that bit where Woo-sung's eating and you can hear him gulp, and it's like...
Oh my God. God. Viewers and listeners, please revisit that reel as of right now on our Instagram from December 29th. When I watched that, I was like, I've got to put that out. How did he gulp so loud?
Don't, no, because it actually makes me feel a bit sick.
That's the funniest thing.
I'm not good with the sound of people eating either. God, I sound like an absolute whack job, don't I? I'm very very sensitive to sounds. I think I'm just going to put it that way. I'm very, very sensitive to sounds. And
no,
stop it, woman! Stop it! No, I don't like you. Go away. Right. So Hajuni, is it a blood tattoo?
What does that even mean? I don't know.
So
what that
bloodline?
means.
Is it so a bloodline is what you do with it doesn't have any ink, so it's how you sort of create the first line, the first draft of a tattoo. So is it a bloodline tattoo? Or has it got ink? Or is it actual ink?
It's actual ink.
And what colour ink is it?
Let's go black. It's all black.
Is he literally just doing an outline? Or are you allowing him to shade?
Yes. Let's say he shades. He's a good artist.
Right, okay. So I will point out now that I think Hajuni wearing a blindfold, tattooing somebody, may be more successful than the photograph of a tattoo that we saw earlier on during the world tour that was done with a stencil and the guy hadn't got a blindfold on. This is Editor Cal, and usually it's Anne coming out with the sus content. But why does the centre of that rose look like something else? So I have a selection of tattoos.
Hajuni is a very good artist. I feel like he could do well blindfolded. Don't you think?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Whereas Dojuni, I might want to hunt down and punch.
See, I think this would be hard because I feel like through our conversations, I feel like you're very particular about your tattoos.
I am so particular about my tattoos.
I was like, okay, what is really going to be worse for Cal? Is it really going to be like how particular you are about your tattoos, or just the fact that you hate ASMR so much you would
Well, right. Okay.
let
So
Hajuni tattoo you
right. Okay.
blindfolded.
I mean, the idea of having, and I apologise to anybody out there has a rose tattoo, but the thought of having a rose tattoo really upsets me.
And I also knew that. I told you I'm evil.
So side story. So when I went to my prom at school, which were banned for 5 years afterwards, I'm not saying what happened to the prom, but they banned after we had us. Right, okay. I went to a great school. I actually had a fake black rose tattoo transfer on my shoulder blade, and everybody spent the entire night going, Kelly's got a tattoo, Kelly's got a tattoo, and I was literally like, it's a fake, but nobody believed me that it was a fake. So like the thought of having a rose tattoo is just like, no, definitely not doing that. And yes, I am very particular about my tattoos. Okay, then which one would you do?
Okay. I always pick these because they end up being easy for me. One, I have a fear of needles. Like I can't imagine getting a tattoo because I am just deathly scared of needles. So while I would love for Hajuni to touch me, I just can't imagine him touching me with a needle.
I can't believe you just said that. As much as I would love him to touch me, I can't imagine him touching me with a needle.
Sus content alert in the new year coming in.
Episode 1, and she's already gone there.
I know, right? Oh, I got Kelly's girding face. Come on, do the Cookie Monster face plant. Give us the Cookie Monster face plant. But I would love Dojun's whisper voice in my ear. Oh my gosh, I think I would like that. I feel like I could fall asleep to like the Rose doing ASMR. I need that on like loop.
You see, now this is where we are very different. Very, very, very different. I would end up getting violent with them and just telling them to shut up. I'd probably end up getting my pillow and smothering one of them. I couldn't. No. Whereas having a tattoo,
I've got Dojun's voice notes on repeat.
When I had my last tattoo done, the tattooist had to wake me up because I actually fell asleep.
Oh my gosh! Oh,
I find it really relaxing and very therapeutic. This is where
all right. So I'm going Dojun.
Okay, I'm
going
go
Dojun's ASMR.
I'm going to go Hajuni with the tattoo and hope and pray it doesn't look too much like a rose and it'll just look like some weird abstract thing. But I think I'd have it underneath my foot. I think I'd go somewhere like that.
Would never be seen.
I don't want that on display. No, I don't want it on display.
Oh, that's hilarious. I love that. Well, viewers and listeners, tell us what you would pick. Are you going to have Hajun tattoo a rose on your body anywhere of your choice, but he's blindfolded? Or do you want Dojun sending you in your group chat every hour motivational quotes, but he does it in his most dramatic ASMR voice? Tell us what you would pick. All right, listeners, we hope you enjoyed this exploration on the anniversary of Beauty and the Beast, this iconic song by The Rose. This was a fun exploration, Kelly. Yeah, please rate our podcast. Leave us comments about this episode. We always love to hear your feedback. Follow us on social media if you don't. Instagram, TikTok, X, and YouTube. We are at KROK_cast all across the board.
Click here to subscribe.
Join our wonderful community on Patreon for great benefits like exclusive content, virtual hangouts, discounts on KRockcast merchandise. Email us at krock.cast@gmail.com and check out our website, www.krockcast.com. All right, see you in the next episode. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Hi, this is Brighton from Cloudian. You are watching and listening to K-Rockcast. Check out their podcast and K-Rock recommends for our music and other great independent artists.